Welcome to the Unpacking the Framework video series. This series provides valuable information about the National Best Practice Framework for Early Childhood Intervention. My name is Denise Luscombe, and this video introduction is being recorded on Whadjuk Noongar Budja. I acknowledge the traditional custodians of this land and the land you're listening from, and recognise their continued connection to country, waterways and community. I would also like to pay my respects to their elders, past and present. This video is one of a series that describes the evidence and practice information that underpins the principles of the National Best Practice Framework for Early Childhood Intervention. You'll hear from both national and international speakers throughout this video series. This video covers relationship-based, a universal principle of the National Best Practice Framework for Early Childhood Intervention, and is presented by our national speaker, Dr. Paul Pritchard. With decades of practical experience and personal research interests, Paul is a highly sought-after speaker known for addressing a diverse range of audiences on topics such as building authentic partnerships, engaging families, relational practices, and involving parents as collaborators in service delivery. His commitment to enhancing early childhood services has made him a recognised advocate for family engagement and community involvement. Paul's extensive experience in guiding families through difficult times fuels his dedication to genuinely connecting with communities. He strives to amplify the voices of disengaged families in the design and implementation of early childhood services, ensuring that their unique needs and insights are prioritised. Before starting his own consultancy, Paul served as the Training and Development Manager at the Centre for Community Child Health at the Royal Children's Hospital in Victoria. In this capacity, he led the development and rollout of programs aimed at strengthening relationships between practitioners and parents, as well as fostering collaboration among professionals. His contributions were instrumental in the early design and implementation of integrated early years centres in Tasmania, where he spearheaded the learning and development strategy. Prior to this role, Paul played a vital part in establishing Good Beginnings Australia, working there from its inception in 1997 until 2009. For over 2 decades, Paul has been an accredited trainer and facilitator of the internationally recognised family partnership model. In addition to his work with families, Paul is deeply committed to promoting the essential role that fathers play in their children's lives. He has created and facilitated various father-specific programs. Paul earned his PhD in 2018, focusing on parents' experiences with parenting services and exploring the potential for parents to act as co-workers in making these services more accessible to families who often find them difficult to engage with.
Hello there. I'm most grateful for the opportunity to share some thoughts and ideas with you around the importance of building trusting, authentic and supportive relationships between professionals and the families that they support. I'd like to start, if you don't mind, by inviting you to think about the concept of first meetings. First meetings happen for us regularly, particularly for those of us who are involved in working directly with families. Can I ask you to just think carefully about how do you prepare for these beginnings? What occurs in these first encounters? What effect do you leave behind? And what is the other person's impressions of you? All these are important questions for us to ask ourselves and reflect on if we're to move to new and helpful places in our practice in building relationships with families. It hopefully goes without saying that what transpires in first meetings between practitioners and those they're supporting significantly influences the potential to sustain an effective partnership with them. We are relational beings. Our technical or clinical expertise is certainly important to being effective in our work with families. However, technical competence alone is not sufficient to build and sustain effective relationships with families, particularly families who view the service system with suspicion or have a history of engaging effectively with professionals. We now understand that practitioners also need to have a swag of relational expertise to help nurture relationships characterized by trust, rapport, and safety. I'd argue that this is particularly relevant at the front end of relationships between parents and practitioners. The internationally renowned family partnership model, which comes out of the UK, has been extensively utilised in Australia and draws attention to the importance of the practitioner's interpersonal skills and qualities in supporting parents and children to relax into an authentic partnership with professionals reflected by authenticity, reciprocity, shared decision making, and mutual respect. This model also emphasizes the profound influence of personal constructs, that is, my internal mental pictures that I can hold and I can quickly arrive at, that can help or hinder the process of building the capability of others. The necessary interpersonal skills that enable one to build an effective partnership with parents, whilst obvious to most of us, include empathy, respect, genuineness, humility, personal attunement, deep listening, knowing when to mobilize one's technical expertise, and so on. The critical thing here, though, is for practitioners to keep in mind that what really matters is how they are seen and perceived by parents rather than one's own belief about their own relational ability. In reality, the most useful indicator of my relational expertise might be realized through nurturing a relationship with colleagues and families that I'm supporting, whereby those others are able to give me timely and respectful feedback about changes that they feel I might need to consider making in my practice. This obviously is not an easy piece of work, but nurturing relationships based on genuine regard and regular feedback will enable practitioners and those they support to move to new places of practice. Too many families avoid contact with professionals. The reasons for this choice are wide and varied, but can include previous unhelpful experiences, lack of trust in practitioners, feeling judged and not listened to, and even the uncertainty about what will happen in the encounter. Another key element of building an effective relationship with parents is working with them in a way whereby they can predict and understand what will occur. Others only know what I'm thinking if I tell them. What might be standard process for me may be completely foreign to another person. I can model respect and transparency by stepping out clearly what the process will be, the time frames involved, who else might be involved, and what the other person can do in this process. So, what I'm inevitably wanting to do in my encounters with families is to make sure there's no trickery. Make sure that we're not leaving parents and their children guessing about what comes next. So, being really predictable, being completely transparent, and making sure that everything I do reflects honesty and openness. I've come to understand in my own practice, not only in the past in working with families, but also in managing staff, that it's very, very helpful to explicitly negotiate a way of working together. You see, we can agree between myself and a parent or between a team of colleagues that we're going to be respectful of each other. But what does respect actually mean? What does it look like? How do I know when I'm on the receiving end of it? And importantly, what is the effect of real respect on our relationship? So, an essential piece of work in sustaining relationships with parents or others that I'm working with should be preparedness to talk about stuff that in other settings might actually just be assumed. We all know how to work together, we know how to be respectful. But to make the implicit explicit and to share openly my intention to work in certain ways with you and what do you expect from me. This models, importantly, the skill of negotiation and the fact that I also, as a practitioner, am here to learn from you, the parent. So this will help us sustain the shared piece of work that we're going to do together. It also illustrates an intention from the professional to level the playing field. It opens the door to a culture of co-constructing, co-designing, co-building, whatever it is that we end up doing together. So I'm not here just to do stuff to you and to make decisions on your behalf, but I actually am here also to learn from your wisdom and experience as we go along. In learning from your experience, I'm not necessarily talking about the type of relationship where the practitioner is there to learn completely from the parent, the expert of their own situation, but rather we both bring different pieces of expertise and knowledge, so let's learn from each other. And also importantly, which I'll touch on towards the end again, the importance of receiving feedback and working in a way right from the beginning of the relationship that I open the door to feedback from you, the parent. If I've never had reflection modeled to me by my parents or others I encounter, how will I know how to be reflective? In building a relationship with parents, a practitioner is in a unique position to model reflective behaviours and to share with parents the unknown benefits, or the known benefits of reflection to both parenting and also within the parent-child relationships. For example, I can do this by inviting parents to think about the question I'm about to ask. Perhaps to repeat a question a couple of times and invite them to take their time before responding so that they can learn to move from just giving me a surface level response to letting the dust settle and giving me a more meaningful and useful response. In doing this, I'm able to model reflective behaviours and actively facilitate opportunities to practice reflecting. In so doing, the parent will inevitably come to experience the benefits of thinking carefully before attempting to respond. And it's likely also when they experience the benefits of this type of reflection that they will take that same behaviour into their parenting context and use it when they're left bewildered or frustrated by behaviours of their children or by things that they experience in order to find more appropriate and helpful ways of responding. Something else we know is important in building effective relationships with parents we are supporting is being alert to the things that interrupt my attempt to share power with them. In my experience of working with and listening to parents, living in communities characterized by distinct disadvantage, I have come to understand that working hard on backpedaling away from all the little things that put me in a powerful position in my encounter with others can be very helpful in helping others relax, feel safe, and get ready for the piece of work that we will do together. For example, how might I deformalize or casualize the service environment I ask parents to come into in order to make it warm, welcoming, and friendly for them? Can I make attempts to more gently negotiate with parents what they would like to focus on, or even listen to them carefully about what they expect from the work we're going to do together? In doing these things, I am stepping away from an expert model of I will tell you what we're doing and how we're going to do it, to a more negotiated stance of attempting to share power with the people I'm trying to support. The family partnership model I mentioned before also draws attention to the critical importance of listening carefully in order to understand what exactly the other person means. For many of us trained in expert frameworks, health practitioners, teachers, we're pretty good at quickly falling into problem solving or a fixing mode. If we think about the fact that the most easily articulated issue or problem is not often the real problem, it's an obvious conclusion then that solutions and advice can be quickly trotted out for something that does not address the real issue. A key skill involved in effective listening is to accurately summarize, therefore affording the parent the privilege of hearing out loud their issue for the second time. When done well, this process can help people make sense of their own experience and begin to find real solutions for themselves. So in effect, I'm asking, do I listen in order to speak? Am I just listening to the internal chatter in my head as I hear this parent tell me about their issue? Or am I investing deeply in listening with a view to understanding what it is they're saying from their perspective? Regardless of the context, all of us want to experience relationships that are safe, comfortable, and useful. It should go without saying that our attempt to build and sustain effective relationships between parents and practitioners should focus on reflecting these things. Respect through what I do and how I do it. Rapport, enabling each of us to feel comfortable and safe in the work that we're doing together. And reciprocity, that this relationship is not focused on a one-way street of me decanting expertise into the empty vessel, the parent sitting with me, but rather both the practitioner and the parent going away from encounters with each other, having learnt together and learnt from each other. It's important to understand that I can believe that I possess particular skills or qualities, but in practice, it's the impact of the practitioner's skills on the parent or colleague that is crucial, rather than my own self-perception of my own skills. As previously identified, the relational practitioner should be confident to work in such a way that parents and colleagues can be comfortable to be able to give and receive honest and timely feedback. To support this, the relational practitioner can model purposeful review at regular intervals. In reviewing one's practice experiences, the practitioner can arrive at new understanding about things that need to change in their practice, such as their own internal beliefs and experiences. And in explicitly modeling review with parents in the work that we do with them, we also are modeling in a very profound way ways of looking back and considering how might I do things differently in the future in regards to my parenting, in regards to how I do relationships. It's been an absolute pleasure having this opportunity to share these thoughts with you. I'm most grateful for the invitation.
We hope you've enjoyed this video, part of the video series Unpacking the Framework for the National Best Practice Framework for Early Childhood Intervention. The review of best practice in early childhood intervention was commissioned by the Department of Social Services. Led by the University of Melbourne, the project team included Pracy, professionals and researchers in early childhood intervention, Murdoch Children's Research Institute, SNAKE, National Voice for Our Children, Children and Young People with Disability Australia, and ACD, Advocating for Children with Disability. Coordination and production of the video series was led by Pracy.